The game situation was disappointing to me. You know, I put so much time and energy into that project. I worked hard on that project, man. I recorded 6 records on that album. Come back and appear to be unappreciative was incredible to me.
Why is it like guaranteed that we're getting live?
Yeah.
Because it's the game talking. And this is not a shot at him, but he's very extra. Like he lie. Everybody know he lie.
So here's how the rapper of the game scammed me into sending him $4,000 for a verse. So I made a beat for him to rap over, and he was gonna record a verse and then send it back to me for $4,000. I thought it was legit as I previously paid him to post one of my new songs on his story, which he did, so I thought it was legit. So after I sent him the $4,000, it took him 3 months to get back to me. And that's only because I mentioned I had to get a lawyer to get my money back, or get the verse.
When discussing the biggest wastes of potential in hip-hop, names like Fetty Wap, Roddy Ricch, DaBaby, and Chance the Rapper often come up. These artists started with massive hits but quickly saw a decline in the quality of their music. However, one name that frequently gets overlooked in these discussions is The Game. With an incredible skill set and undeniable talent, The Game is undoubtedly one of the top rappers in the industry. Yet instead of focusing on artistic growth and honing his craft, he has often been sidetracked by petty beefs and unnecessary antics. This behavior has led to burned bridges within the industry, ultimately staining his legacy.
Come back and appear to be unappreciative was incredible to me.
Take, for example, recent monumental event in West Coast hip-hop. Dr. Dre, The Game's former mentor, gathered a star-studded lineup including Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, the entire Black Hippie crew, YG, Mustard, and other West Coast legends for a legendary performance. However, there was one glaring absence: The Game. For someone who has contributed so much to West Coast hip-hop, his absence was not only noticeable but also puzzling. It raises questions about what actions or behaviors led to such a significant snub from an event celebrating the very culture he helped shape. Now, one of the key reasons for The Game's dwindling reputation is his tendency to lie or exaggerate things.
Why is it like guaranteed that we're getting live?
Yeah.
Because it's the game talking. And this is not a shot at him, but he's very extra. Like he lie. Everybody know he lie.
A prime example of this is the infamous Instagram post where he shared a photoshopped picture of himself with Tupac Shakur, suggesting that they had met. Fans quickly realized the image was fake and the backlash was swift.
You
That's not
photoshopped
fair.
yourself on someone else and put a picture out with you and Pac.
It's Pac.
But it's not you.
People accuse The Game of trying to deceive his followers. When confronted about it on Vlad TV, he claimed that he never intended to trick anyone and simply wanted to show appreciation for Tupac, whom he considers one of the greatest rappers ever. However, the damage to his credibility was already done. Then there's the ever-changing story of how many times he got shot. It's like he can't keep his story straight, which only adds to the skepticism around him. Over the years, the details of these stories have changed, making it difficult for fans and critics alike to discern the truth. Then there was the incident where he claimed that Kanye West did more for him in a few weeks than Dr. Dre did throughout his career.
When you see Game say, yo, Dre never did nothing for me. I remember Dre being in the studio and giving you them hits, bro.
This statement was not only controversial but also blatantly false, considering that Dr. Dre is the very reason The Game's career took off in the first place. Without Dre's mentorship and influence, it's unlikely that The Game would have reached the heights he did. Such statements undermine the contributions of those who played pivotal roles in his success and make him appear ungrateful and disingenuous.
You heard him say Kanye did more for me in the last 2 weeks than Dr. Dre did my entire career, right?
I interpret that as him being vulnerable.
I interpret that as him lying.
In addition to these issues, The Game has faced multiple accusations of scamming young, unsigned artists out of thousands of dollars. Promising them placements on a mixtape and promotion for their music, he allegedly took their money without delivering on his promises.
So here's how the rapper of the game scammed me into sending him $4,000 for a verse. So I made a beat for him to rap over, and he was going to record a verse and then send it back to me for $4,000. I thought it was legit as I previously paid him to post one of my new songs on his story, which he did, so I thought it was legit. So after I sent him the $4,000, it took him 3 months to get back to me. And that's only because I mentioned I had to get a lawyer to get my money back, or get the verse.
And then there's The Game's many beefs in the industry. Let's start with the most notorious one, his feud with 50 Cent.
The game situation was disappointing to me. You know, I put so much time and energy into that project. I worked hard on that project, man. I recorded 6 records on that album. Come back and appear to be unappreciative was incredible to me.
Back in 2003, 50 Cent shook the entire industry with the release of his debut album Get Rich or Die Trying as Eminem's protege. Dr. Dre, seeing 50 Cent's success, decided it was time to bring up an artist of his own. That same year, Dre discovered a kid handing out mixtapes throughout Compton and decided to sign him to Aftermath. The rapper was The Game. Dr. Dre worked in the studio with The Game for several months, but it wasn't until August of 2003 that The Game and 50 Cent finally linked up in the studio. They collaborated on a track called So Hard for the June at Radio 3's Taking It to the Streets mixtape, which marked The Game's G-Unit debut on Wax. After several months of trying to generate buzz for The Game, music executive Jimmy Iovine came up with an idea that would skyrocket The Game's career. Since 50 Cent was the hottest rapper in the world at the time, Dre and Jimmy thought it would be a great idea for The Game to become an official member of G-Unit. Dre pitched the idea to 50 Cent, and soon enough, The Game was officially part of the group. In July 2004, The Game even got his own June at Radio mixtape called The Fifth Element, as Dre was pushing hard to gain steam for his West Coast artist. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was working on his second studio album, The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which was scheduled for a February 14, 2005 release. During this time, The Game was also working on his debut album, initially titled N-Words with an Attitude Volume 1, later changed to The Documentary. One day, during a recording session at his home studio, 50 Cent, being the solid dude he was, decided to mute his vocals on several tracks from his own album and give them to The Game to ensure his debut album would be hot. Early 2005 rolled around, and this is where the relationship between 50 Cent and The Game began to sour. During this period, The Game started dissing other artists and DJs for no apparent reason. This forced 50 Cent to cover for him, calling these people to patch things up so they wouldn't end The Game's young career.
His way of patching it up was, I don't have a problem with Jay-Z or Fat Joe or anybody. And it was like, I'm busy patching this thing up that you just did, and you come back and you say you don't have a problem even with the people that I have issues with.
Tensions rose further when The Game wanted his debut album, The Documentary, to come out before 50 Cent's second studio album. This led to 50 delaying his album until March, leaving him with a very bad taste in his mouth. On January 28, 2005, Hate It or Love It dropped, and in the music video, 50 Cent actually refused to sit in the front seat of the lowrider with The Game, a sign of the growing tensions between them. The breaking point in their beef came when The Game publicly stated that he had no issues with Nas, Fat Joe, and Jadakiss, all of whom were 50's enemies at the time. 50 Cent saw this as a major act of disloyalty. During an interview with Ed Lover on Power 105.1, 50 Cent went on a tangent about The Game and officially kicked him out of G-Unit Live on the air.
And he came back recently from overseas and was disrespectful, man. Like the way he's like, it's like he's feeling himself, like because of how well his record is selling. It's incredible that he would come back and forget how much I've done for him.
So where does he stand as far as G-Unit is concerned right now?
Across the street or around the corner. He's not in my camp.
Not at all?
No way.
Okay.
Not after being that disrespectful.
That same day, 50 Cent sat down with Funk Master Flex at Hot 97, where he once again spoke about The Game's disloyalty. But The Game was still in New York at the time. Fueled by anger, he gathered a group of gang members and headed to Hot 97. What ensued was a shootout between The Game's crew and 50 Cent's entourage, resulting in one of The Game's guys getting shot in the leg. During the chaos, 50 Cent made a swift exit through the back door of the building. A couple of days later, in a surprising turn of events, 50 Cent and The Game appeared together, making a donation to the Boys Choir of Harlem and the Compton Unified School District music program. They even embraced and publicly squashed their beef. However, this truce was short-lived. The peace lasted until Summer Jam in 2005, where The Game infamously dissed 50 Cent and the rest of G-Unit. He threw his G-Unit chain into the crowd, declaring that he was officially out of the group. This marked the beginning of The Game's anti-G-Unit campaign.
Straight the fuck out of Compton, and I got love for New York. And still 50. Now play my shit. There. Listen. 50 Cent can suck my. Lord Gates can suck my.
Just a few weeks later, the game dropped the You Know What It Is Volume 3 mixtape, which was heavily focused on dissing 50 Cent. This mixtape included the legendary track 300 Bars and Runnin', a 15-minute onslaught where the game mercilessly tore apart 50 Cent and the rest of G-Unit. In response, 50 Cent released the Piggy Bank music video in August featuring a depiction of the game as Mr. Potato Head. 50 Cent also did an interview with Tim Westwood where he discussed the Hot 97 incident and elaborated on why they were beefing.
The game situation was disappointing to me. You know, I put so much time and energy into that project. I worked hard on that project, man. I recorded 6 records on that album. Come back and appear to be unappreciative was incredible to me.
The streets are saying that the documentary was better than the massacre, which it is, and 50 got jealous and kicked me out of G-Unit, and he thought that he could do what he did to Ja Rule to me. He's a jealous little girl, man.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, he's jealous, and somebody needs to braid his ponytail and put him back in his skirt, because, I mean, he's obviously off his rocker, man.
The game then followed up with the Ghost Unit mixtape dedicated entirely to dissing G-Unit. 50 Cent finally responded to the game at the end of the song Emotional on the June at Radio 14 Back to Business mixtape, throwing shade towards the game. The two continued to exchange diss tracks and public insults, fueling their ongoing feud. The game's departure from G-Unit put a significant strain on his relationship with Dr. Dre. With millions of dollars at stake, Dre had to make a business decision that essentially sabotaged his work with the game. However, the game proved his resilience with the release of Doctor's Advocate in 2006. Just a year after his debut, he managed to deliver a stellar album without Dre's guiding hand or 50 Cent's contributions, proving to the world that he could stand on his own. Despite the public fallout, it turns out that Dre and the game maintained a healthy relationship behind the scenes. By the time the Red album was released in 2011, the game revealed that Dre was still giving him vital feedback.
Dre always told me, no matter what happens, no matter what gets said in the media, me and you are always going to be the same as we were the last time we had an in-person conversation.
For years, the game's loyalty to Dr. Dre remained unshaken. Despite no longer being officially signed to him, the game showed an unwavering commitment to Dre, unlike anything he had exhibited for anyone else in the industry. He admitted there were tense moments between them, but his gratitude always overshadowed the friction. In interviews, he often boasted about his ability to call Dre at a moment's notice. However, if he tried to make that call today, it would likely go unanswered. The game has systematically ruined his ties with Dr. Dre and the entire Aftermath family. His downfall could have been avoided if he hadn't been so controlled by emotion in an industry that demands strategy and careful thought. When Dre released the Compton LP and the game appeared on only one track, some fans found it odd. However, the situation became more glaring when Dre was set to oversee the Super Bowl halftime show in 2022. It was expected that Dre would perform a career-spanning set featuring many artists he had mentored. On the big night, he brought out Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Anderson .Paak, Kendrick Lamar, and 50 Cent. Meanwhile, the game was left on the sidelines watching from his own city. Initially, the game kept things civil and acted unbothered by the snub. However, knowing his mindset, it seemed only a matter of time before his true feelings spilled out. Eventually, he admitted that it did get to him.
It just wouldn't have happened. LA all around the Super Bowl, and I don't get the call. Dre didn't do any beats on the documentary, but I didn't say he didn't oversee it.
This admission flipped a switch, opening the floodgates for the game to cross a line he had never crossed before, discrediting Dr. Dre. The rapper, who had once penned a heartfelt tribute to Dre on his second album, now downplayed Dre's impact on his career and life as if it were insignificant.
I've never had a song with Dre on it and Dre been in my video. Snoop has a ton. M has a ton. I don't have none.
Soon, he was claiming that Kanye West, a man he had previously beefed with over explicit lyrics about Kanye's then-wife Kim Kardashian, had done more for his career than Dre ever did.
Finally crossed a line that he'd never had before, and that was to discredit Dr. Dre. Suddenly, the rapper who had previously written a heartfelt tribute to Dre on his second album was now downplaying Dre's impact on his career.
The world collectively rolled its eyes at this comment, and those who witnessed the game's early days with Aftermath were quick to call him out.
Say, yo, Dre never did nothing for me. I remember Dre being in the studio and giving you them hits, bro.
By publicly disparaging the man who had given him a major break, the game effectively burned his most valued bridge in hip-hop. He has since tried to walk back his comments, attempting to save face, but the damage was done.
Basically, I was a little inebriated, and I said some things that I meant. I'm not gonna take it back. I ain't no sucker. Touch any part of anything that you're doing in life is such a blessing that I shall not ever on that again.
In the aftermath of the Super Bowl snub, the game internalized a lot of animosity towards Dre. He even used his bitterness to justify some of his actions, like claiming that his diss towards Eminem was just another way to get back at Dre.
Throwing shots at Eminem and beefing with Eminem. It was just me being upset with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre can't out-rap me, so I just went at him, just because that's just how I get sometimes.
If this were an isolated incident, perhaps Dre could have let it go, but it was part of a larger pattern of behavior that ultimately destroyed Dre's respect for the game. The game's attempts to undermine Kendrick Lamar were another factor in Dre's distancing. Saluted by Kendrick and Black Boy Fly as a rapper he looked up to, the game was present when the torch was passed to Kendrick by Snoop Dogg. Over the years, Kendrick collaborated with the game on several tracks, and it seemed like they were on good terms. However, at every turn, the game appeared to downplay Kendrick's skills, whether out of competitiveness or jealousy.
Can't nobody in Countdown rap game. Kendrick do it. I love that to death. I flew past Kendrick when that was on foot in a Range Rover and showed him how to do it. Don't play with game name. Hardest in Compton, rapping, lyricist, me.
Once again, the game let alcohol influence his actions, fostering potential problems with another of Dre's proteges. This, along with his refusal to stand by the West Coast during Kendrick's beef with Drake, contributed to Dre's gradual distancing. While Dre provided the intro to Not Like Us, the game took Dre's side and was not present at Kendrick's pop-up show that symbolized West Coast unity. This absence raised questions and added to the reasons why Dre no longer respects him. Despite the game's attempts to control his narrative, it's easy to see why Dre has distanced himself. The game has dissed nearly every major rapper associated with Aftermath, and his unpredictable nature has proven hazardous. His disloyalty and ungratefulness have made it clear to Dre that maintaining ties with the game is more trouble than it's worth. And then there's his beef with Jay-Z. Let's rewind to 2011. The game stopped by Big Boy's show for an interview. Big Boy asked him straight up, "What's the deal with you and Jay-Z?" The game opened up about an encounter back in 2004 at Jay-Z's 4040 Club. The game had approached Jay-Z and asked him how he stays relevant as an artist. Jay-Z's response was, "Most of you new rappers don't last long anyway, find a new lane." Now the game took that as a major diss. He felt Jay-Z was brushing him off, saying he wouldn't make it in the rap game.
You know, how do you stay relevant? You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really like his answer. So ever since then, I kind of was just, taking shots here and shots there.
But you went up to Jay-Z and you asked pretty much, how do you stay relevant?
Yeah.
All right, and he said, most of you new rappers won't last long anyway. Maybe you should think of another lane.
But here's the thing, Jay-Z was probably just trying to give some tough love advice. Basically, he was saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, diversify, save your money, invest in other things because the rap game can be unpredictable. The game, being young and hungry, didn't see it that way. He saw it as Jay-Z disrespecting him and writing him off, and that's when the beef officially started brewing on his end. Now let's flip to Jay-Z's perspective. According to some sources, Jay-Z's issues with the game started with the track West Side Story, the first single off the game's debut album, The Documentary, released on September 7, 2004. There was a specific line where the game rapped, "I don't do button-up shirts or drive Maybachs." A lot of people, including Jay-Z, took this as a shot at him. Jay-Z was known for his button-up style and his Maybach. Even though the game later clarified that it wasn't a diss at Jay-Z, but rather at Ja Rule, the damage was done. Jay-Z felt disrespected.
Maybach, homie, I'm bringing CA back, and I don't do button-up shirts or drive Maybachs.
But just a few weeks after West Side Story dropped, the game released his second mixtape, West Side Story: The Compton Chronicles. This mixtape included the West Side Story track, and another track called Get Your Money Right, featuring Dr. Dre and Jay-Z. The problem was that Jay-Z's verse on Get Your Money Right was never approved. The game released it without Jay-Z's consent, so from Jay-Z's perspective, it looked like the game was taking subliminal shots at him and then using an unauthorized verse of his to boost his mixtape. It was a bad look, and Jay-Z wasn't happy. On top of all this, around 2004, the game was having issues with one of Jay-Z's artists, Memphis Bleek. They were going back and forth, adding more fuel to the fire, so when word got back to the game that Jay-Z took his bar about button-ups and Maybachs as a diss, the game decided to clear things up. He did an interview with Ed Lover and explained that the game wasn't aimed at Jay-Z but at Ja Rule. This made sense because back in 2002, when the game wrote West Side Story, 50 Cent and Ja Rule were beefing, and the game was siding with 50 in Aftermath, eventually joining G-Unit.
I think it was more geared towards Ja Rule. Because I remember Ja Rule being on like MTV Cribs saying he had the first Maybach and he was in New York, and at that time 50 was beefing with Ja, and so again I just jumped in.
Despite the Game's efforts to clarify his intentions, the tensions didn't dissolve. On February 7th, 2005, Jay-Z and his Rockefeller crew, including Memphis Bleek, appeared on Hot 97 for a freestyle session. During Jay-Z's freestyle, he threw some clear subliminal shots at the Game. Before launching into his verses, Jay-Z remarked, "You need to give me 700% of your record if you're going to use my verse for your project," referencing the Game's unauthorized use of his verse on Get Your Money Right.
Yeah, I put my verse on your records, I want 700%. I'm coming in for 700%. Do not put my verse on your records, alright?
In his freestyle, Jay-Z mentioned the word game multiple times, making it evident that he was addressing the Game.
Playing the games, I'm seeing the thing through. You saying my name to entertain your crew. I ain't playing no games, shots exchange through. Fresh off probation, I gotta charge the doorway. My lawyer say for 80 larger to go away. In the game, you know you ain't gonna win. Quit playing them childish games with grown men. I don't give a fuck about cars or chrome rims. I got apartments you can put your home in. Can I live?
So during this time, the Game was having a blast overseas with Snoop Dogg, performing throughout February. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until he caught wind of Jay-Z's freestyle diss. The Game learned that Jay-Z had mentioned his name multiple times and it didn't sit well with him. On February 10th, 2005, the Game called up 50 Cent for advice. 50 Cent, always the strategist, told him to hold off on responding to Jay-Z and let him figure out the best move.
I got a phone call from him. He was in Amsterdam when he called me back in the States, and I told him, I said, just sit tight, let me see exactly what it's about. You know, I'll get in contact with Jay and see how you know, really what it is.
But the Game, being young and hot-headed, didn't heed 50's advice. That very night, while performing in Amsterdam, he went off script and dissed not only Jay-Z, but the entire Rockefeller and Murder Inc. crews. This impulsive move didn't sit well with 50 Cent because it dragged him into the beef and left him to clean up the mess.
Before I could get back to him, he went on stage and told everybody to suck him off. You know what I mean? And that's not how, I'm not comfortable with that. That's not how I function.
The Game released LAX on August 26, 2008. While there were a few references to Jay-Z, nothing was overtly disrespectful. However, as 2009 rolled around, the feud reignited. Jay-Z started sending more subliminal shots at the Game. On July 3, 2009, during his tour, Jay-Z freestyled the intro to his album, The Blueprint 3, at the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas. In this freestyle, he dissed Dame Dash, Jim Jones, and the Game.
I ain't talking about gossip, I ain't talking about game, I ain't talking about Jimmy, I ain't talking about damn.
The Game quickly caught wind of this, and just 2 days later, while performing in France on July 5th, he yelled out "F Jay-Z" on stage. Jay-Z continued his tour and eventually went to the UK. On July 21, 2009, during an interview with Tim Westwood, Jay-Z was asked about the Game. Jay-Z dismissed him, calling him a groupie.
I'm not talking about you. Oh, you hurt my feelings.
Exactly.
Tell groupie to get over it.
A few days later, on July 29, 2009, Jay-Z did another interview with Big Boy's Neighborhood. When asked about the Game and their issues, Jay-Z calmly stated that the Game was just seeking attention while on tour, and that there were no real issues between them.
I guess buzz or marketing or however people feel that they need attention these days. So there's no real problem behind it. There's no real challenge behind it.
Fast forward to July 22, 2011, the Game released a track titled Uncle Otis, a playful twist on Jay-Z and Kanye West's Otis from their collaborative album Watch the Throne. The Game openly admitted that he dropped this track primarily to poke fun at Jay-Z and take some jabs at him, all as a strategy to promote his own upcoming album, The Red Album.
Be talking about creatine, Krishan, and we wouldn't have been talking about nobody.
Right.
You wouldn't be talking to me now about it.
In the same year, the Game did an interview where he discussed his ongoing fascination with Jay-Z, expressing his long-standing desire to battle him. He suggested that Jay-Z was afraid to engage in a rap battle with him and criticized the current state of hip-hop for being overly competitive and lacking in real confrontations. Despite these comments, the Game largely refrained from making any more overtly disrespectful remarks about Jay-Z. Though the Game would often reference Jay-Z in his albums and mixtapes, these mentions were usually not disrespectful. In fact, by 2015, the Game reflected on his feud with Jay-Z and expressed a sense of pride and survival. He explained why he initially started beefing with Jay-Z, stating that he wanted to make a mark in hip-hop and felt validated when Jay-Z acknowledged him. He remarked, "I'm probably one of the only cats that ever went straight at Jay-Z's neck and still had a career afterward, which is risky. I remember having a real argument with the mother of my children because she was a Jay-Z fan and she was just like, you don't know what you're doing, he's going to come back and we're not going to be able to survive, but I did it anyway and Jay never responded."
But I'm probably one of the only cats that ever went at, straight at Jay-Z's neck and still had a career after, which is risky.
At this point, it's easy to see why hip-hop no longer respects the game or wants to associate with him. The game's erratic behavior, contradictory statements, and tendency to burn bridges have made it difficult for others to take him seriously or maintain professional relationships with him.